and I'm feeling good.
Hello, hello, hello. It's Tamika of Love Inspired Teach E. Welcome to today's podcast. I'm super excited. I promised everyone that I would have more guests. And in case you didn't know, the Love Inspired Teach E company hosts the LITE Firestarters podcast every other Tuesday at 5:30. And we focus on spicy topics related to lifestyle and wellness. And an extension of that is spirituality. So, again, I'm super excited for our podcast today because we have a special guest who's also written a book. He and I were able to give you guys talk a little bit more and learn a little bit more about each other, but we really wanted today's podcast to be organic. So without further ado, I'm going to add to the stage Mr. Bill Paulter. I probably mispronounced that because I didn't go over that with him as much as I probably should have. So, Bill, how do you pronounce your last name so we can all get it correct?
Sure. It's Paulter.
Paulter.
Like if you were pouting.
Okay, got it. So Bill and I met basically through a mutual Facebook friend, and she said, "Hey, I've got a great guest for you. He's really wanting to spread his message about spirituality. I think it'll be a great fit for the podcast." And I happen to agree. And there was a lot of emails exchanged back and forth, but the goal for us was to have an organic conversation and to spread knowledge that we know is going to be beneficial to everyone else who catches this YouTube. So if you don't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, do all the things. I don't have my kids here. They give me the reminders. But the other thing you're supposed to do is comment. So even if you're catching this later in the day, we want your comments. We may not be able to reply to them on the show per se because this is a recorded session, but we will get back to it and make sure to share our knowledge with you because that's what we want to do today. So, Bill, as far as an introduction, I know I mentioned that you're an author, that you find it very important to share your message, but is there anything else that you feel people should know about you and, where you're at in life currently?
Been on a spiritual path since I was probably 6 or 7. I've been through everything that you can probably imagine. I was close to death about 1.5 years ago, like real close. I've got 6 children. I've had 2 divorces. Built a couple different companies, only one of them profitable, and now, and I wrote a book because I wanted to help people grow in their spirituality, which is really just growing in love for themselves. And that's what I'm doing with my life right now.
I think that is an amazing intro to yourself. Growing in love is something we should all do. So, I mean, that's a lot. 6 kids, a couple divorces, a couple businesses. So you have a lot to share with us. So I'm interested. You already touched on some of what led you to your journey to becoming an author, but can you tell me a little bit more about why spirituality specifically is so important to you?
Um, the big answer is I think that I've reincarnated through this world multiple times, and I think I've been probably a priest and different things. But ever since I was a child, I wanted to understand why we were here,
Mhm.
and what is the importance of this? If we're eternal spirits, what is the importance of this life journey? And
Mhm.
so that question just nagged me and nagged me and nagged me. And so I just did a deep dive for the last 35 years of my life on why we're here and what's important, because I didn't want to miss the big picture.
And when you say you didn't want to miss the big picture, does that mean you feel like it's happened to you or you've come close to that experience?
that I've come close to missing the big picture.
Yeah, since
Yeah.
it's a fear, it sounds like you're sharing with us.
Yeah. I think this is sad in a way. I think probably 80% of 90% of us miss the big picture. We come into this life, we get conformed to the world. We're brought up under a lot of false beliefs, and we miss the fact that we're here to learn how to grow and love ourselves. And we get focused on building a career and raising a family. And not that any of these things are bad, they're important, right? But our focus stays on those things instead of staying on growing in love for ourselves. Because when we grow in love for ourselves, that's when we can really love everybody else. And so, I say this a lot, but there's a Bible verse that I've launched and locked in for my family, and it's, do not conform yourself to this world, but be transformed. Transform meaning a complete change, right? Changing form. Be transformed by the renewal of your mind. And renewing means to make new again, so that we may know the perfect and pleasing will of God. So we come into this world, we get conformed to the world. We forget that this is an eternal journey, and this is just a small part of our eternal journey. And but when we learn to love ourselves, when we learn to forgive ourselves, when we learn not to judge ourselves, and we stay in alignment with our purpose for coming into this world, then we stay in alignment with our higher soul. We stay in alignment with the consciousness of the all. And that's when we get healthy. We have peace in our life. We have peace in our hearts, and our bodies align with that, and our mission aligns with that. And then we can really bring the value that we're supposed to bring into the world.
Great nuggets of information. And I don't even want to call them nuggets because they're much bigger than that. But so much of what you said resonated with me. You talked about getting healthy, getting peace in your heart, being in alignment, finding value in yourself, just having that self-realization. And you also mentioned when you first introduced yourself that you had a near-death experience. I think you said it was a year and a half ago, but this journey really started when you were 6 years old. So let's back into, a year and a half ago when you had this basically near-death experience. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
No, and it's probably, if you want to talk about health, that's probably a good place to jump off. And over time, my body was starting to build up fluid because I had a lung issue, but I didn't realize it. And I just kept getting, I ended up like putting on 25, 35 pounds of water on my body. And I was just about, drowning in my own fluids. And I was going to the doctor, and I got misdiagnosed, ended up in the emergency room on a Saturday morning. And then I had 10 days of intensive care in the hospital until they figured out what was going on and got me turned around. But I would tell you that I didn't understand this till much afterwards, is that I had lost my voice in the world. And that's why I think I was having lung problems. And I don't know. And so I guess the point of that is we have to be healthy as a spiritual person, as a spirit in a body, to promote health inside our bodies. Because when we are at dis-ease, then our bodies become diseased. Okay.
Okay. So, if you followed along with the LITE Firestarters podcast, you also know that I share about myself. And one of the alignments and synergies that Bill and I found is he did a little research, as he well should. And, one of the first things he said to me, which I found to be very heartfelt, and I've been less active on social media. So, even though I have shared my breast cancer journey, but he recognized that. And that was one of the first things he shared with me. And so I have to thank Bill for sharing this because, like he said, disease grows when you don't have that peace in your heart, when you don't find yourself in alignment, and you have to really go on that journey, find that awakening, lean into that spirituality. So I love that you shared the Bible verse. I don't know which one it was specifically, but I did add it to our notes so you can see. He said, something he leans into is do not conform yourself to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So as Bill was sharing about, his lung issues, that fluid, and just being misdiagnosed and going on a journey that reminded him or really renewed his desire to grow in love, because he said it several times. I just, again, want to thank Bill because the reason why we have the podcast is, yes, these are uncomfortable topics. Bill, would you agree that sometimes when you share your story, or even Bill told me before we started, he said to me, I cry sometimes, don't worry about it. And we are supposed to cry. Like Bill, when he shared that with me, said, I just need to release it. Sometimes people are afraid to release that. Would you agree or disagree with that thought? Like, what are your thoughts on people's discomfort? You already mentioned disease and what causes it, but this discomfort idea, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I think that in this world, we wear a lot of masks because
Mhm.
we're supposed to look successful and we're supposed to, we think we're supposed to be these perfect people. And so we wear a
Mhm.
lot of masks and we hold a lot of stuff in. And that's unhealthy.
Mhm.
So when we start taking the masks off and we become authentic, we become our authentic selves. But it's very uncomfortable because anytime that we are in any type of tribe, whether it's a family tribe, whether it's a work tribe, whether it's a religious tribe or a social tribe, there are certain rules and beliefs inside that tribe. And those, as we grow in consciousness, we often grow out of uh, those belief systems because most belief systems on this world are not very perfect. They're usually started with very good intent, but quite often they have a lot of falsity in them. So whenever we quit conforming to our tribe, that's uncomfortable for the tribe. So they push us out and we step out. And then we become more of our authentic selves. But it's a shaming process. We feel guilt, we feel shamed. Um, and so it's very uncomfortable to become our authentic selves until we get really comfortable with ourselves. And, because we want to show up for others and conform and have friends and all those things. So,
Uh, any any growth is going to include some discomfort, and it takes us a while sometimes to embrace and accept that and get to the other side. So do you feel that your book, or even, yeah, I'm going to focus on the book, which I haven't fully mentioned yet. I've kind of touched on it, but we haven't really got into it. But do you feel like your book touches on that idea of being in discomfort in order to grow and become fully awakened to your true self?
Uh, Tamika, that's a good question. Um, I don't have a chapter on that.
Hmm.
I don't think, but I do talk about fear. I do talk about death. I've got a whole chapter on death,
Hmm.
and death is in my book. I've actually got a woman dancing with a man, and the man is obviously kind of like death or the devil, right? All dressed in black in a tux type of thing. And so, in that manner, life and death are juxtaposed.
Hmm.
And so, to grow, you always have to have that discomfort of death staring at you. And death is physical death, but it's leaving things behind, obviously. And growing, it's much easier, per se, just to stay in the norm. But if
Hmm.
you're really allowing your consciousness to expand and grow and change, it's always going to be uncomfortable. And I think that some of that's in my book. I don't know that it's exactly in my book. In a roundabout way, it's probably in my book.
Okay. Well, how how long did it take you to write your book, and how did you start that process? Because I think a lot of times with books, when especially when we fall in love with them or we're seeking something, we kind of want to know more about how what was the process like. So are you able to share that a little bit?
Oh, sure. I mean, first off, I've read probably well over 1,000 spiritual books, and I love books.
Hmm.
And that's really the only thing that I've read is spirituality in the last 20 years. And
Hmm.
I highlight all my books and I make notes and I go back to my books. Um, and so a lot of this stuff that I've learned, it's a remembering from, I believe, from my soul level, but it's also things that I've learned from other beautiful spiritual people in the world. Uh, and my process to become what I would call spiritually aware took me like 30 years, which seemed like a long time. And Spirit told me to write a book that helped people speed through that process. And
Yay.
so I just sat down and said, I'm going to write a book. It took me 3 years. And the beautiful part about that, and I love my book and I wish lots of people would read it, and a lot of people have.
Hmm.
But what it did for me personally was it forced me to codify my belief system.
Hmm.
And then now it's letting me talk about it in ways that are not non rambling per se.
Yeah, no. Okay. So that's awesome. You codified your belief system. And I have to say, I think most people are going to be really excited about the purpose of the book is to speed through the growth process. We are in a society that is like instant gratification. How do we get there quickly? How do we, is there a shortcut? Is there a cheat code? What can I do? And you're a lover of books. I love books. I love learning. I went to a research-based university. So I think all of us are seeking answers. Whether you went to university, didn't go to university is not the point. It's that how do you grow as a person? And if we can find a cheat code, I don't think there's a rule really against it. I don't know why we call it cheating. It's just cheating is just a word, y'all. But check out his book. Now that Bill told me that, because I'll admit, like in my prep time, I did not get a chance to buy the book beforehand, but I did get to do some snippets. So I want you to go ahead. He's touched on the book. We'll talk about fear and death. It tells you about, well, it allowed him to codify his belief system. But can you tell us more about your book? The name of the book is Awakening to Ourselves. So obviously, we're here on a theme of spirituality, but we have the author here to give us a framework and now that we've alluded to the book many times, just tell us a little bit more because we want the cheat code.
Okay. Well,
Everybody
good.
wants a cheat code. If you don't mind me calling it a cheat code, he said speed through the growth process. Y'all, I have cancer. I want to speed through growth processes. So please enlighten me. I'm a
Sure.
fan.
Well, good. We only have so much time on Earth. And so it's
Right?
important to absorb as much as we can that we need to grow our consciousness. And I would say a big piece of that also is being in the quiet. You have to stay in the quiet. But so my book basically is broken into two parts. It's my story. Well, my stories are written through there, but the concepts are in there. The first part of the book is just laying out some basic belief systems. And to me, there's only a couple of them. And one is you have to recognize that the Spirit of God animates you. And if the Spirit of God animates you, then all the attributes of God are already inside you. So once you realize that, and then you take an eternal perspective, because if we're spirits in bodies, and most people, I think, believe we're eternal, and we're going to go to heaven or someplace, that we're not going to die per se, and that our ancestors are on the other side of the veil, then if you take an eternal perspective of your life while you're here, it's that 10,000 foot strategy that allows you to look at things and go, oh, maybe this is not completely a crisis. And then it allows you to implement things in your life that you can do to promote your spiritual growth, to promote the love for yourself. And so in my book, I put practices at the end of all my chapters of things that I've done and practiced. And all the things that I put in there are super simple stuff that you can do when you're walking down the sidewalk or when you're driving your car and that type of stuff. And so I want people to just start putting some of those little practices into their lives.
Can you give us an example of one of those practices?
Oh, yeah. I'll give you a bunch of them if I can remember them. I would say one thing is every time you make a decision, make a decision toward love.
Yay.
Because I'll explain that. But the word live, okay, which is life, spelled backwards is evil. Okay. So every decision we make is either toward life or the antithesis of life. Okay. And love is life. And the antithesis of love is death. Okay. So every time you make a decision, as small as it is, it doesn't matter. Okay. To smile at somebody in the grocery store, to let somebody go in front of you in the car or open a door, or to choose to tell somebody the truth that they don't want to hear. Okay. Because love is not, there's two energies of love. There's the male yang energy, which is the sword and the warring. Okay. And then there's the yin energy, which is the female energy, which is the nurturing. And love, perfect love, is a balance of those two energies. And so every decision that you make to love needs to be made with the balance of those two energies, because you can't always just nurture people, and you can't always just slice their heads off when they're doing stupid things. So, and I say that I do a lot of stupid things too. So that's not against anybody else out there as much as a recognition of my own stupidity. So that's it. Every time you make a decision, make it in love.
You make it sound so simple. I'm not sure that people would understand the simplicity of it without that example. But one of those examples, I should say, because you gave even the simplest example of choosing to smile at someone when you're shopping at the store. So I wonder if these practices that you recommend at the end of each chapter, and that was an amazing example. I'm glad you shared it. Is that these practices how you codify your belief system as well, or is that something that's touched upon on the book, or is that something where you gave insider information here while we were on YouTube?
Well, I mean, you gotta remember that my book is a couple years old, and my
Mhm.
consciousness changes continually. Okay,
Okay.
because it's just the way it is. So I don't know that exact example is in the book, but
Okay.
there's lots of examples in the book of my whole book is. I mean, I've got my book here, and I can't remember sometimes what it's called, but the subtitle is The Practical Art of Building a Spiritually Aware Life. And
Hmm.
so people think this spirituality thing is, religion and kneeling and worshiping and sin and all that type of stuff. It's much simpler than that. And so my book is about practical things, okay?
Okay.
And practical ways that and you don't even have to call it spirituality. I mean, these are all just labels that we use in this world to try and describe things. Just like
Mhm.
your logo and my logo, we talked about it. They're
Yes.
almost the same thing.
Hmm.
Love, inspire, teach, and evolve. And my
Yes.
logo is spiritual awareness, growth, and enlightenment. It's the same thing.
Hmm. So I'm gonna share with everyone, and I'm so glad because I was trying to figure out how am I gonna bring up our conversation about the logo, but I think it resonated so well with Bill. Like he took the opportunity to bring it up and tie it into our discussion today because being practical and common sense is not always as common. That's why having a cheat code, having a book, having tips and hints and even what he called practices that he encourages you to do at the end of each chapter are guides to help us just live a happier life. Like I said, when Bill was speaking earlier, he talked about how we all want to get healthy. We should all have peace in our hearts. I feel like alignment is a buzzword, especially if you're in a wellness or spirituality space. And actually, um, when I think about the emails I have with my co-parent, he always talks about getting aligned. And and in that space, I find it odd, but he's a very business-like person. So alignment is key to all of our lives. But love inspired teaching, it's a mouthful, it's a concept, but I always abbreviate it to light. And we're going to take a look at sage. And sage means one, it's an herb. If you want to take it from the, a definitions from a book meaning, but it's also another way of saying wise when someone is sage. And then when we look at Bill's logo, which I'm going to share, and the way I'm going to share it is um, Bill also has a YouTube channel, which we didn't even touch on. So I'll actually link, I'll create a link to one of his videos in the posting of this recording. But let me get to sharing the screen. I'm on double duty, so bear with me. My eyes are always looking at multiple spots, but we just want to share the screen so I can show you guys the logo that we're talking about. So when Bill talks about those synergies, we're talking about, and I want to see, yes, it does zoom when I zoom. So you can see his logo looks so peaceful. Like, I love it. So why don't you go ahead and break down the art, the pictures on here, but he mentioned already that SAGE stands for spiritual awareness, growth, and enlightenment. So my cursor is really tiny, but that little white arrow that you see is telling you where to look for what SAGE symbolizes, represents, what it's an acronym for. But do you care to tell us a little bit more about the images you chose? I mean, I love the star. I love everything about it. So why don't you break it down for us?
Thank you. Yeah, it took us, a friend of mine helped me with this. It took us like 9 months to work through all the details of this logo, and it's a little busy, but like you said, Tamika, is sage, a person that's a sage is wise, okay? And it's interesting. I never thought we were having this conversation today, but
Organic, hey.
but occasionally I sage my apartment, and
Me too.
anytime I go on vacation, I sage the space I'm in. I saged my apartment this morning. It's probably been 2 years since I saged my apartment, and I saged it this morning, which is very interesting. But sage is a color. It's obviously, when you sage, you cleanse your space. It's a cleansing. And it's wisdom. To act with sage is to act with wisdom. So, and then tying that into spiritual, we're all spiritual, in my personal opinion, because we're all animated by the Spirit of God. Okay. Whatever you want to call God, whatever names, doesn't matter to me. The all, the divine, just doesn't matter. And then I believe that we can change in very simple ways just with a level of awareness. And then, we're always growing in consciousness. And then enlightenment is really, when we come into this world, we're pure. We don't have any false beliefs, any trauma, anything, right? It's because when we look at a baby, we go, oh, because they're awesome. They're pure. And so enlightenment is just our journey back to our original light that's inside of us. And we cover it up with all our false beliefs, our beliefs of victimhood, our trauma, violence, all these things. And as we just uncover all these false beliefs that we've ascribed to or we hold on to, then our light shines naturally.
So is that why there's a star at the top of the logo? And why did you pick the turtle there?
I forgot about all that. Turtles. I just love turtles.
9 months on it. So, let's dig in. That was a labor of love,
It was. The turtle is sitting on the earth because we're in the earth, right? I just love turtles. I've always loved turtles since I was a little boy. I was picking box turtles up in the woods and putting them in a little cage type thing I had in my backyard and feeding them and watching them, and then I'd release them. So I love sea turtles and I love the ocean. So that turtle sitting on the earth and obviously in a meditative type position, right? Where the turtle's finding peace. And then when you find that peace, you've got the star, and the star connects the crown chakra to your higher self, to your soul. And so when we stay in alignment with our higher calling.
Okay, we got it.
There we go. So when we stay in alignment with our higher calling, that's when we find that peace and love and can be ourselves. Because we're all coming to this world with unique gifts. So we all are required to give our unique gifts to the world, whatever those are. inside our family, inside the people we come in contact with, inside our work, anywhere we go, we're supposed to be bringing our unique gifts into the world, because it's all our unique gifts are like threads in a tapestry. And so if you take the Tamika thread and the Bill thread and the Mary thread and the everybody thread, right? And you weave it all together, that's the beautiful tapestry. That's the consciousness of the all. And we, as we grow in consciousness on this earth, especially if we're growing in love, then we're creating peace in ourselves, and that peace radiates out from us. And that's so if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself. Another thing I will tell you, quick tips, I've got lots of quick tips, is you're the only one that can give your peace away. That peace of God lives in you all the time. Love lives in you all the time. All the attributes of God live in you all the time. But nobody can take your peace away. You can give it away, but nobody can ever take it away.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay. That is so true. Everything you're saying today resonates deeply with me, and I hope that it resonates deeply with everyone else who's watching the video. So I'm going to take another moment to go ahead and encourage people to like, to share, subscribe, comment. But really, if these words carry resonance with you, part of why we want to hear about it is because we learn and grow from one another, and those unique gifts we have are meant to be shared. And I firmly believe that today, on the first day of October, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Today, when life has had it for all of us, it always has so many different things to test us, to cause us to question our beliefs, what's important to us. How many of us have ever codified a belief system of our own? What we may do is pull from a belief system. Bill touched on religion. A lot of people use religion to give them some guidance and foundation. But what do you do to codify your own belief system? And I'm so glad that Bill is here to share these things that he's gone through that's allowed him to create a belief system. And, you know, anytime I'm doing the podcast, I share my own personal stories as well. And the breast cancer journey, whew, it's been an interesting one. And Bill shared with me, and I'm hoping he's okay with me sharing with everyone else as well. His mom actually is a breast cancer survivor, and she had to fight breast cancer multiple times. So when he said that to me, I was like, multiple times? Ooh, I hope that is not part of my journey. And one of the things I'm doing to make sure that that is not a part of my journey is have this podcast. I focus on lifestyle and wellness. Spirituality is a part of your wellness. Doing things that are uncomfortable. Not everyone will write a book like Bill did. Not everyone will share their story in a public space. Not everyone wants to do a YouTube. Not everyone listens to podcasts, but what we do for one another is we share that knowledge. And him sharing that knowledge resonated so much with me because in the past month that I've just filtered how much social media I am just interacting with, and also even distributing myself, I have been faced with a lot of health issues. And how I'm going to prevent that is by sharing this knowledge, by having these uncomfortable conversations, by meeting people like Bill, who he's had his own life experiences. He shared with you guys. He's had two businesses. I think you said one of them successful among those two businesses. Is that correct?
I actually had like 4 businesses, but go ahead.
I mean, anyone who knows anything about entrepreneurship knows it is not a straight and narrow path. There's no one easy answer. If you caught the earlier episodes of LITE Firestarters, we used to specifically speak about entrepreneurship, about building wealth. And that is all a part of your lifestyle. But never once in any of those early podcasts did you ever hear anyone say it was easy. And that is just, again, part of you learning, to Bill's point, your unique gifts and your strengths. Some people like to say that I am very Pollyanna, and they say it like it's a bad thing. And I had to catch myself this morning because I had to tell someone, hey, I had to change a relationship status with a particular person because I didn't think they were, to use Bill's words today, helping me grow in love. I had to take off my rose-colored glasses, if you've ever heard that phrase, and I had to own, like, this person is here to teach me. And I have to understand that it is okay to be different. It is okay for two people to understand that we are both good people. But that doesn't change the fact that in order to grow, in order to balance energies, another thing that Bill is talking with us about today and teach us is that sometimes you have to put yourself out there and accept that everything isn't necessarily meant to be negative, but we've got to balance it. There's good and bad, but what happens when you balance it? I think I would say that's where the awakening occurs. That's where the lesson, whatever word resonates with you, but that's where you get to lean into being your true self, your authentic self. Again, these are things that Bill's touched on. And so, Bill, I guess the next direction I want to take people is, you and I both like to share knowledge, and you mentioned that you have a YouTube channel. It's Sage Life with Bill. So if you want the book, you can definitely get the book. You guys know I love to plug things that intrigue me, that interest me, that I think are going to be helpful. And I said to Bill, hey, what do you want me to share with people? And he was like, well, Tamika, it's not about marketing. And I'm sorry, but the LITE is technically a consulting company, but I don't ever take that to be a bad thing. Marketing is about sharing knowledge that people need and bridging a gap. So if someone walks into, let's not even say, you know, if they walk into an ice cream shop, I like ice cream and right now I have hot flashes. Sorry, side note for the breast cancer stuff. But if you walk into an ice cream shop, they're going to market you based on what your interests are. And they just talk to you to find out, what are you looking for? What are you missing as far as your sweet tooth? Do you want something that's sweet and salty, like salted caramel sorbet ice cream, or what? They're just trying to bridge a gap. So marketing is not a bad thing. So when you see purchase now on Amazon, I'm promoting that Bill has great knowledge that we should share with one another or with yourself if you feel that you're on a journey and you want the cheat code. And his book is called Awakening to Ourselves. And he also shared with us that, you know, it's also the little subtitle piece to it is the practical art of building a spiritually aware life. If you need a little more detail on what it is, but that marketing or that book, I want us to make this information easy. I want everyone who wants, what he said, it'll speed you through the growth process. So if you don't want to call it a cheat code, say I'm speeding through the growth process. If you want that, then you can not only go get the book on Amazon, because I like to promote what will help all of us, but you can also find them on YouTube. And that's Sage Life with Bill. So with your YouTube channel, which is where his logo, because I was at part of how I even learned a little bit more about Bill's YouTube channel, is we were really originally talking about the book, and he realized, not only did he share with me he does plan a revamp, I guess, of the book website, but also he realized the logo wasn't there. The Sage Life logo wasn't there. So tell me more about this YouTube channel you've got, this other opportunity for learning more about how to find that awakening within yourself, to become your true self, to grow in love. You've got a lot of great themes today, I have to say. Like, if he hasn't heard it already, I have been just feeding on all the knowledge he shared, and I just feel like it was so meant to be for me to talk to Bill today. I really do. So let me stay focused. I asked you about your YouTube channel, so what would you like to share?
Well, one of the things I like to share is my YouTube channel is Sage Life with Bill But my website is also sagelifewithbill.com. And if you go to my website, you can sign up. I write a weekly story. I spend anywhere between 6 and 10 hours on my stories. This week's story just got published, I think, this morning. But I write I think, a beautiful story every week that people can read. And then I've just started my YouTube page a couple months ago, and I'm still trying to figure things out, and cameras and how to get my message across via video. But I've got some shorts up there that are good. I've got some long stuff up there, got some podcast stuff up there, but you're going to see weekly brand new material on my YouTube page, honed in pretty tight in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And that's going to be my primary platform, because I want people to hear my voice, to see my dedication, to know that I love them, and I want to help all of us just grow in love for ourselves. So, I love the printed stuff because it forces me, like I said, to codify my belief systems, and then I can put it out on YouTube and love people that way.
And that's wonderful. I think the world will always need more love. There's a lot of different things going on in the world, and losing sight of love is what takes us away from ourselves, and so the website is where people will get the newsletter. And I think that you've made a lot of progress. You mentioned that you feel like since you were 6 years old, something clearly happened then, because that was a good marker in life for you, and that it took you 30 years of processing everything that had been going on, in 3 years to write the actual book. And now you have your website, you have you've come out the other side of a near-death experience. You have a lot to celebrate. So given that celebration, and on this importance of growing in love, what do you want people to take away from meeting you today on the Love Inspire Teachy or LITE Firestarters podcast? And where do you feel like you don't let yourself shine? And I want you to take this opportunity to give us a peek behind the curtains of Bill.
A peek behind the curtains of Bill.
Yeah.
I practice everything that I tell people.
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time in quiet. I live by myself now. I spend a lot of time in the cemeteries meditating. I love to meditate in the cemeteries. Gosh.
And where do you feel like you feel like this is my success? This is what I want to own. This is for me to cherish and give myself kudos.
I don't.
How do you love yourself? What do you love about yourself? Let me phrase it that way. We've been talking about growing in love. I have to give you this push.
This is going to sound egotistical, but I'm really just learning to love myself completely. I've been a people pleaser, and therefore I felt like I've loved other people more than I've loved myself sometimes. Mm-hmm. I believe that forgiveness, that God, I'm not going to get into the whole sin thing, but God forgives us before we ever come into the world, because there really, on the other side of the veil, in my opinion, there really is no forgiveness, because everything is already forgiven in advance, because for means in advance and to give is a gift. So because we come into this world just to learn, to refine our spirits, to learn how to master our love, whether that's the masculine or feminine sides of love. And so I've learned to forgive myself. I've learned, not always, but yeah, and these are, I'm still learning, right? I'm still refining, but I've learned to forgive myself. I've learned not to judge myself. I've learned that it's good to make mistakes because you can't grow unless you're making mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not growing.
Yeah.
So, and then I just, and I could tell a long story about this, but I know for a fact that the eyes are the windows of the soul. Okay. And I've got a little bit of a street ministry going on with street people and what some people would call homeless people. And what I've found is that the street people, my street friends, they really just want to be seen. And if you really get down to it, each of us really just wants to be seen, not for what we can give, not for what we've created, but just for the beauty that resides in our souls. And like we talked about earlier, taking those masks off. And once we continue to take our masks off, then we show our true beauty to each other. And once you see somebody's beauty, I mean, my gosh.
Yes, this is true. So, Bill, why was it egotistical for you to say that what you love about yourself is that you've learned to love and forgive yourself? That threw me off a little bit when you said this is going to be egotistical of me to say, but why is it egotistical for someone to own and embrace that they love themselves?
It's probably not. It's probably something I'm still working on.
Okay. I was like, maybe I'm missing something. I need him to tell me more about this. But okay. Well, and just because, we're talking about growth, we're talking about, growing in love. I'm curious, what is the business you have now that's successful? Is it that, ministry you're doing right now? Is it the book? Where is that lie?
Well, the
Or is
last
it
business,
unrelated to anything we've touched on today?
yeah, that's fine. My last business was that I sold a number of years ago. That was my only business venture that really made any real money. And so once I got out of that, I knew that I wanted to build my Sage Life brand. And so I started doing that. I started off printing t-shirts, and I'm going to get back to that. Then I wrote my book, and then I started writing these weekly stories, and then I started my YouTube page, and it's all growing. But I mean, my goal here is to build a very authentic, a very grounded, a very down to earth way for people to relate to spirituality. The other thing about spirituality, and we talked about going to church just a little bit, and that is that a lot of people go to church and they subscribe to all the rules of the church, and I have no problem with that. But we can't give our spirituality away to a religion. Jesus said, put your hands to the plow and don't look back. We are responsible for our own growth, consciousness, and love. And you can't get that. You can get direction in a church. It's like pointing at the moon, right? The moon's up there. It's not my finger, okay?
Yes.
Religion points us toward God, but we have to be responsible for our own journey. And so I think that a lot of us don't take responsibility for our own journey. So I don't know where I was going with all that, but I tell people you need to do things that serve you. If going to church serves you, then go to church. It may serve you in a social way, but not a spiritual way. A lot of people go to church for the social portion of it, which that's fine too, but call it what it is. The other thing I tell people is quick tips of how to get spiritual. Start looking at what you spent the most time thinking about in the last week. Okay?
That's a great tip.
Because anytime you're thinking about something, that's what you're giving energy to. Creation starts spirit, then into the mind, then through the tongue and the hands, right? So if you're spending a ton of time worried about your finances, then you're going to have bad finances.
Right.
You know, so, and if you spend a ton of time, I don't know, thinking about whatever it is, you know, you have to, as you start to look, and the reason my book is, says Practical Art of Building a Spiritually Aware Life. Anytime you become aware of something, that's when growth happens. When you realize that you become aware that drinking 6 Cokes a day is not going to be healthy for you, okay? Then you will naturally give up drinking 6 Cokes a day. And that is the same thing in the spiritual world. Once you realize not to harbor hate in your heart about something that happened to you 10 years ago, and with awareness, that hate will go away. And so all spiritual growth is based off of, and really all growth in general is based off a new level of awareness. Tamika, I think we lost you, sweetheart.
Okay. So clearly technical difficulties. I do apologize. Bill was in the middle of his thought. He's back. And again, apologies for the technical difficulties. So Bill, I'm not sure if you know where it cut out, but I do know you were giving some great advice for people managing religion and spirituality is the short version I can think of to explain it, but I know you are on a much stronger path. So do you think you can pick back up?
I mean, the basic thing I'm going to tell you is you're in charge of your own spiritual growth. Okay. And just, you can't farm that out to anybody else. So you just have to be responsible for it.
All right. So we are at the hour mark, and I apologize for my multiple technical difficulties right at the end, right when we were getting to the good stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite Bill back. We can pick up at where he left off with that thought, because we had a lot of great conversation. I think you really understood Bill's intention, and I hope that you enjoy the LITE Firestarters podcast and that you will check us out every other Tuesday at 5:30. And again, thank you so much to Bill Paulter. Check out his website, sagelifewithbill.com, or check out his YouTube channel. And also check out the cheat code book. I'm promoting this now as the cheat code book, and I hope to learn more about you guys' thoughts as you share your comments. All right, have a great day. Thank you so much.